And so I do think that a big part of it is just starting as young as you can. I mean, I had these conversations. My dad he wouldn't talk to me about politics or tax policy, but he would make sure that I understood how to apply sort of the lens of my values and morals to the world.
Yeah.
And I do think that that's pretty important, and that does act as somewhat of a fail-safe. Then again, it's different with your kids are in Santa Monica.
Well,
you have to get out of that
you're dealing
state.
not just with education, though. You're dealing with an ability to purify your echo chamber. And if big tech, for example, is skewed one way, and
right.
you've shown a lot of examples of this, it becomes very difficult to get a balanced point of view, scholarly information or
right.
vetted information that pushes back on this mainstream narrative, whatever it might be. And that's what I worry about. That's where I think we've got this Wokeville and Magistan, and the rest of us in the middle are going, when is the shooting going to start? This is really scary.
Yeah, but you're not in the middle either. This is one thing I will say. When you say middle.
Middle, I mean, I'm responsive to evidence.
Right, you're responsive to evidence. But
I'm very aware of what makes this country great. When you characterize the framers of the Constitution, those men that solved the political problem, Aristotle couldn't do it, but they solved the political problem. Remember that the people that are marginalized in this country have used the language and used the systems of government to better their condition. When you start framing those men as one thing, which is just white racists,
right.
when you start framing the grand experiment that is the United States as nothing but a white supremacy tyrannical patriarchy, well, this country has worked for a lot of people, and they haven't all been white. So yes, we have problems, and yes, but this is a work in progress, this country,
right.
and it's a work in progress, and we have made progress because of those men. And they knew that the Constitution, they knew the country, they knew it wasn't a finished thing. That's why they left room for amendments in the Constitution. So what I worry about is, I'm not in the middle in that sense. I worry that we are being fed a bunch of lies, and I'm worried that a lot of journalists are political activists. I'm not interested in this.
And what I would say is, see what you just said? What you just said, keep in mind that the people on the left, when we talk about sort of being in the middle, no, people on the left, the whole wing of the left either wants to tear down Washington and Jefferson statues, and now Abe Lincoln, and everyone on the left acquiesces to them. Like you have Joe Biden, who's the moderate left, but his energy plan is the Green New Deal, right?
That's why I am.
You're a moderate conservative.
I am not a leftist. I'll tell you that.
I would say you're a moderate conservative.
I think the leftists are dangerous. And when you talk about, when you just said what you just said, when you talk about tearing down institutions, that the problem with revolutionaries is that they never have anything to put in its place. These are people that are excellent deconstructionists. The rest of us are trying to construct a life, and it's really hard to construct a life. It's really hard to build a business. It's really hard to come up with a brand. It's really hard to construct yourself as a human being and as a productive citizen. That takes a lot of work. You face a lot of failure trying to get good at anything, whether it's jujitsu, whether it's the piano. And you've got people driving the narrative that are on the outside looking in, that they're not participating. They're academics coming up with terrible, coming up with courses and charging way too much money, and you can never apply it in the real life unless you work for, I don't know, human resources. Now you're a resentful activist. Let's be honest about what a scam the humanities are in most of. Look, I have family members who are going to the best schools in the country. If you're not careful, you can go to Harvard and places like that and get no education. Certainly an education that's not going to get you any closer to the truth, and it's not going to make you any money.
Right.
So, that's
and they talk down to the constructionists. They talk down to the people who built it. You know what it is? It's like, okay, you have the founding fathers, and then you have conservatives and Republicans and business owners, by the way, who are denigrated. It's basically they're taking all this time to build this wonderful, beautiful sandcastle. If you've ever built a sandcastle, it takes a lot of time. And they're doing it as an accurate to scale replica. And the academics and the liberal elites are just the drunken guy with a lime in his Corona going,
that is exactly right.
Down, and they say, fucking idiot, why would you build a sandcastle when I was here?
Yeah. And then what are you going to put in place of that sandcastle? More talk.
I'm going to take a shit.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a shit because I drank too much Corona, and that's Cornel West.
Now, hold on. At least Cornel West is an old school liberal. At least he calls you brother and sister. At least Cornel West feels. I always feel like when he's talking, he's trying to at least he's engaging in debate like Noam Chomsky. I may not agree with them, but at least they're old school.
Yeah.
This stuff that we're dealing with now is they're not interested in. They're not interested in. See, when you're trying to construct something, if you're trying to run a country, you got to get down to the level of detail. Do you understand? When you're getting down to the level of detail, all that ideology kind of goes out the window. It really does. Whether you believe in climate change or not, if you're a scientist trying to figure out a way to get sheep to graze at a higher altitude, say what you will about climate. I don't know if it works or not. I just know that sheep can't graze in this kind of heat, and I got to get them to graze in cooler weather. If we're dealing with practicality, all that stuff goes out the window.
Right.
And I worry that journalists and academics and the people in government who come out of those traditions are not. They've never had to deal with.
Well, okay, think
with
about
that.
So you're talking about let's go through this. This is a perfect example because now it's worse with social media.
Yeah.
Right. But we would always agree that media. I mean, Walter Cronkite was thought of as an unbiased journalist. He said you can't be a journalist and not be a liberal. It was just covered a little bit better, right? Dan Rather, Tom Brokaw. You can go back to these people. But so I think we all agree that the media and of course the entertainment has been very liberal for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. So Joe Biden and certainly AOC, I say this because they didn't have big tech, but they grew up in the environment where the media they would consume at that point, the only options were still left-leaning, right? Joe Biden and AOC. Then they went to higher education, which we would agree, of course, is left-leaning. And then, having never achieved any kind of private employment whatsoever, AOC and Biden go immediately from biased media, Sesame Street, Barney, college, representing you in government with no actual accountability or profit incentive. And Joe Biden for 50 years. That's how you end up with people so out of touch with American business owners and even blue dog Democrats. They don't know what it's like to earn a paycheck that isn't merely trickling from the teat of the taxpayer. They have no clue. And those people are the ones running your country.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.